Hey friends, welcome to episode 23 of the Way Too Indiecast. On today's show, we review this year's Sundance darling, Alfonso Gomez Rejon's Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which was purchased by Fox Searchlight for $12 million. The biggest purchase in Sundance history. Did they bet on the right horse? We'll let you know later on in the show with our review, and we're also talking about our favorite movies about making movies. To accompany that review, we'll explain that connection later, but we're also discussing the year in movies that was 2015 so far. So the movies that made big impressions of us, be it good, bad, or ugly, and the trends that we saw emerge in this first 6 months of 2015. And this is all in anticipation of our list of best movies of the year so far, which will be dropping this coming Monday. So this will be a bit of a preview conversation, if you will. All that, plus our indie picks of the week coming up shortly. I'm your host, Bernard Boo, coming to you from the Bay Area in California, and I'm happy as a clam to be joined by the Dastardly Dissenter again. Way Too Indie writer CJ Prince, beaming in from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Hello. I think you're the only one happy as a clam to hear me.
That's not true. Like everybody who listens to the
everyone's just like, God damn it.
Yeah, they just
Prince again.
It's Prince again. They just flip it off. They just
No, it's not that Prince.
No, yeah, they were hoping for the other Prince.
Yeah, it was just like sick guitar riffs for an hour while we talk indie.
Sick guitar riffs. But yeah, it's good to have a little bit of solidarity here, back to back, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, we're a team, Bernard.
We are a team. Let's see if we can do a good job this week with our winning combination.
That's like subtle shade that we didn't do so good last week.
But indie picks. What is your indie pick of the week this week?
All right. My indie pick of the week, I think it's been out for about a week or two now. I only caught up with it recently. One of my favorites of the year so far, I'll say that now. It is called When Marnie Was There, by Studio Ghibli, who obviously, if you know animation or kids movies, you should know Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki, who's kind of like the main, most well-known person there. Films like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, which no one likes but I liked, and recently The Wind Rises and The Tale of Princess Kaguya. This one actually didn't have Miyazaki's involvement. I unfortunately forget the director's name right now, but it's a really terrific animated tale about this girl named Anna who has asthma. She's adopted. Her adopted mother sends her off to her sister, who lives in kind of a very nice seaside village. And she's there to spend the summer and kind of recover so her asthma can kind of be healed because she was suffering in the city. And there's this house that sits on the marsh that's kind of abandoned, and she meets this very young blonde girl named Marnie, and Anna's kind of this loner, depressed outcast. She kind of, has a lot of issues, and she doesn't have much self-confidence, and she becomes quick friends with Marnie. But Marnie is kind of this mysterious figure, and the film is about their friendship and about the mystery of who Marnie is and how she relates to Anna and why they get along so well. I was really surprised here because I like The Tale of Princess Kaguya, I did not like The Wind Rises, so I was kind of feeling a little ambivalent towards this. I didn't know if it would be, like a huge highlight or something, but it really bowled me over. Really touching story. Not a lot of really fantastical, like expressionistic imagery that you come to expect with some of Studio Ghibli's movies. It's a really quiet, lovely human tale, and I like that. And I love the animation in this is absolutely stunning, and it kind of makes you very sad because you know that this might be one of the last movies Studio Ghibli makes. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really great story. I believe it was adapted from a British novel, and I love that it covered themes and ideas that you don't really see. Like, this is a 12, 13-year-old girl who's suffering from depression and feeling sad about herself. And I think that's the sort of stuff that you don't really see covered in films, and they should be, because these are things children do go through at that age, and these kinds of feelings and emotions. And that I loved. I thought that was really refreshing and really, I think, necessary for children's movies to kind of tackle these themes. And I think the ending also really blew me away. I think that it's one of those movies where I just feel like no one's gonna have a dry eye by the end. It's just one of those really touching, moving films. So yeah, if you can see when Marnie was there, I believe two versions are out. There's a subtitle version with the original Japanese audio track, and there's also a dub version, which has a
Don't do
cast.
it. Don't do the dub.
Some people prefer the dub. If you're bringing kids, it's understandable.
That's
Um,
true. That's true.
yeah, so if any parents are listening to this, first thing is please pay attention to your kids. Don't listen to us. No, cut that out. No, but it has like John C. Riley, Gina Davis, Kieran Shipka, and a whole bunch of people in the voice cast. So, in limited release now, I believe, and probably slowly going to expand.
Great pick. Studio Ghibli is a big blind spot for me.
Really?
Yeah. I have a problem with anime, as people people who listen to the podcast know. So I have to discover the beauty of those films shortly. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. My indie pick for the week is a 2000 film that was a launching pad for an English actor with a gravelly voice who would later become one of the coolest guys in Hollywood, at least for a short amount of time. It's Mike Hodges' Croupier, starring Clive Owen. Owen plays a struggling writer who takes up a job as a croupier or a card dealer to make ends meet. And after being introduced to the insider's world of gambling and card dealing, he gradually sort of loses himself and lets his new job take over his life. He's got a nice, supportive girlfriend, really supportive, played by Gina McKee, but he puts that relationship in jeopardy when he sleeps with one of his fellow croupiers, a particularly leggy one. His girlfriend stays faithful to him through all that, despite his infidelity. But, he gets caught up in some even more dangerous criminal activity at work that gets him in deeper trouble than he can dig himself out of. But he's a writer after all, so all this real life drama and these dirty deeds make for really good material for his book in progress. The film's got some really irresistible noir elements and a multi-layered plot, internal monologues, and like ratty flats and smoky rooms and stuff. But Clive Owen is the big draw here because he proves he's the real deal with like a really mature, magnetic performance, very measured and reserved. He never got to play James Bond, but this is probably the closest thing you'll get.
No, the Croupier, that's actually a really good indie pick because it's honestly a movie I not even on my radar. Now you remembered it, and when you brought it up, it took me a second to be like, oh yeah, I didn't even remember that Clive Owen was in it, and it's been, it's been 15 years, right? But yeah, I mean, yeah, where can you see Croupier, Bernard?
You can stream Croupier on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Easy peasy.
And if you don't have Netflix, you're out of luck.
Yeah,
No,
go,
you can
go
go to
screw
your
yourself.
do it. Do what I do. Go to your library. Libraries are an excellent source. They're like a video store.
100%.
100%.
100%. And people
Go
never
to your
do that,
library.
but it's totally cool. Those are our indie picks of the week when Marnie was there and Croupier. All right, now CJ and I are going to be talking about the year of movies that was 2015 so far. What have your thoughts been on this year, CJ? To me, it's been a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's underwhelming, but on the other hand, I mean, I thought 2014 was a little underwhelming until later on in the year. Then it kind of really kicked into high
Backloaded.
gear for me.
Backloaded, yeah.
Yeah, backload. So I'm hoping, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, a lot of movies, they kind of get saved off till like fall, winter season, because that's when, as all the studios and stuff really want to show off, their more impressive movies because of awards and all that BS. So I'm hoping, with the fall festival season, the fall award season, and all that, we're gonna see a lot. The year will hopefully pick up. But I agree with you. I think it's been a little underwhelming.
Yeah, it has been a little a little deflating to be honest, but I mean, there's so many movies come out. I can't say it's 100%, below average. I mean, there's definitely more than a few movies that affected me deeply in a very good way. Were there some for you?
Yeah, I mean, plenty. I mean, I will admit, like, there are a lot of great movies that came out throughout this year so far. The one that most affected me, I would say, is what stands right now as my favorite movie of the year so far, and I honestly don't think anything will top it. It's called Hard to Be a God. It's by a Russian filmmaker called Alexei German, who has now passed away. He died while finishing the movie. It's a epic that's 40 years in the making. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's a total staggering masterpiece.
Yeah. I haven't caught that one yet, but I've heard so many good things. A lot of people voted for that one. Okay, so that was your favorite movie of the year so far, and that's that. We what we did was we voted. All of us here on the site, we voted for our favorite movies of the year so far. And that compiled list with all our votes is going to be coming out this coming Monday. That's your vote, CJ. I think the one that topped my list, and neither of these necessarily will top the actual big list. So don't take this as a
Yeah,
spoiler. But
they're all individual votes.
yeah, but my number one was Damien Sifron's Wild Tales, the anthology movie. This movie, it's really what's really cool is that it explores like the savage side of us as human beings and the kind of violent side that we don't really allow ourselves to let loose. And it's kind of therapeutic in a way. And what's really cool about this is that there's this local movie theater here in the Bay Area that's been playing it nonstop since it released a few months ago. And I just went recently to go watch it in this art house theater, and it was like three-quarters full. And that made me feel really good about, independent movies, to be honest. It was nice to see a theater that was had people in it. And it wasn't even in San Francisco, like it was in Marin County and San Rafael. So that was really cool, and I loved Wild Tales.
Stuff I really liked. I'll throw these out there. My indie pick from I think that was the last IndieCast, Two Door Nicole, which I really just fell for.
So great.
Yeah, great movie. And Ho Ha, the very baffling yet entrancing movie with Viggo Mortensen that came out earlier this year to a really tiny release. The Duke of Burgundy, which I think is just a completely beautiful romantic love story that talks about really universal themes and things people go through in relationships, the nature of compromise in relationships, how you have to kind of give up something you enjoy in order to kind of help the other person who you love. And it's a beautiful film, and I love that it uses this within this very weird fairy tale type universe with this like BDSM lesbian relationship. It's a total blast and totally original and unique, and it's great. My indie pick from this episode, when Marnie was there, made my top 10. I'll say that. I shouldn't reveal my top 10 too much, but it's fantastic. And I want to give a shout out to Welcome to New York, Abel Ferrara's movie about the Dominique Strauss-Kahn affair with Gerard Depardieu. Really fast. Gerard Depardieu. Whose most notable role recently was the racist chef in Life of Pi for 2 minutes. Before he died on a ship, before he drowned in the ocean. He's fantastic. He's fantastic in this movie. Jacqueline Bisset is like a force of nature in that movie. I love what Ferrara does in it because he combines. It's obviously a reenactment. It's obviously fiction, but he films it in this way that's so documentary-like and so realistic. It's
Would you
so
call it
easy.
verite?
It has a verite quality to it, and you're watching these actors that are well recognizable, and they're playing, and sometimes he'll let the film kind of like falter. Like there's a scene where there's a long take and it's a long argument, and there's a point where the actor's microphone actually starts distorting, like she kind of hits it in the middle of the scene, and he lets it in the film.
That's great.
And it works beautifully because it's just so in the moment. And yeah, I'm a really big fan of that. Unfortunately, it came out earlier this year in a truncated cut against the director's wishes. It cut about 25 minutes off the film. There is a director's cut available overseas. I don't know when that's going to be available in the US, but I'm referring to the director's cut.
That's cool. Another one that really got to me was Get.
You get.
I get.
You got get.
Get. It's really, we're joking, but it's a really really important moving film. That's such a cliche to say it's important, but this one I think earns the description of important. It's by Ronit and Shlomi Elkabetz. Get, the trial of Vivian Amsalem. It's about how in Israel, if a man and woman are married and they want a divorce, the divorce can only take place if the man agrees to it. So the woman is essentially powerless if she finds herself in an unhappy marriage, like the main character in this movie does. It's a really, really infuriating movie. because the state of Israel is it's current. That's how it is right now over there, and it makes me mad. And it's good that it's spreading awareness across the world about that issue. And what's cool about that one is that every camera shot you see is from a character's point of view. So there are no like establishing shots or anything. Or every shot is essentially with the camera placed inside an actor's head or a character's head, if you will. Got very inventive. Those two directors, they're siblings. Ex Machina by Alex Garland. That was one of my favorites. I think that one got really good reception at the theaters as well, right? I think that did pretty well.
It's A24 distributed it. It was by far their most successful. It was a huge surprise, a big success story for them. Their highest grossing film to date, which I'm really proud of. I'm not proud. I'm just happy because I think A24 is a great new distributor.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. I love the stuff they put out. But yeah, Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, they all have really great performances in that movie. And I think that movie, when I first saw that one, it's of course about the repercussions of advanced AI, artificial intelligence, and how we would reckon with those perhaps. And Mad Max Fury Road is one that you weren't as hot on, but I liked quite a bit. I know a lot of people did. It was so inventive, and I loved how it recalls Buster Keaton, and those kind of stunts that are so exuberant. Stunts that don't actually really make sense, like as far as what the characters are trying to accomplish in the movie, but they look so cinematic that it's just fun to watch.
It brings risk back to the screen, I think, which
it's like a sense of real danger, you know.
I think people have just not they haven't really seen that recently or for a while in action films and big tempo
Jackie Chan used to do this stuff, and I really like that. I think his work is so undervalued.
Jackie Chan. They should have had like a blooper reel at the end of Fury Road that was like the Jackie Chan.
Oh yeah, how fun were those to watch?
Those are my favorite parts of the movies because like you could see them get, like when you remember Ong Bak did that. I was like I love that. Like I love that movie for doing that. I'm like, yes.
Because it's cool to watch, but it makes you appreciate the handiwork of these professionals.
Exactly.
And how skilled they were. Like, not anyone can do this shit. But Mad Max, I think, echoes those values. And also, there were some great documentaries that came out. Seymour, An Introduction, Ethan Hawke's first directorial turn. He did a great job with that. That's a really cinematic documentary about Seymour Bernstein, a legendary pianist and performer who kind of quit his legendary career to just be a teacher and teach his pupils how to play like him. I was fascinated by that movie. Ethan Hawke, I didn't think he had it in him, to be honest. When I heard he was directing this movie, I wasn't expecting much.
That happens with most actors turn directors. You kind of go,
Angelina Jolie, yeah.
Ryan Gosling.
I haven't seen that one, but
I've seen it. Let's save that for the worst film segment.
But one that I mentioned, the first film I mentioned was Wild Tales, Damien Sifrin's movie. But one that's similar to that is Benedict Erlingson's Of Horses and Men. Scandinavian sort of anthology movie about all these different characters in this small town and their strange relationships with their horses. And it's an anthology movie like Wild Tales, except the difference is that the characters are actually interconnected and they come together by the end. But other than that, it's actually there are a lot of parallels between those movies. And I think if you guys have seen Wild Tales and enjoyed that, Of Horses and Men would be a safe next watch, I guess.
Yeah, that's one on my kind of must-see list since now not only you, but Dustin in a previous episode, I believe that was his indie pick, and I really that one just flew under the radar for me. I didn't even know of it until both of you were kind of giving it high praise, so I really need to check it out.
Yeah, really unique style of comedy that I'm not. It's new to me. This kind of Norwegian style of black comedy. It's so depressing, but finds humor in that depression. But those. So there were some great films that came out this year, but overall, I mean, to be honest, CJ, I started this conversation off by saying I was underwhelmed because I've seen so many bad movies this year.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I would say I've seen a handful, but I probably haven't seen as many bad films as you. as you, but
Yeah, I get it.
I've seen a fair share of films. I mean, recently, uh, as readers will probably find out in a later segment, I was not a fan of some films. Um, but yeah, yeah. What are some of the absolute turds of the year for you?
Yeah, on the site, I'm pretty much relegated as the guy who reviews most of the mainstream stuff. So I had to watch Get Hard, Unfinished Business, Insurgent, Tomorrowland, Brad
Huh.
Bird's Brad Bird's Big Fat Turd. I think that is might be my biggest fattest turd of this year. But
Really? Not even
well,
Hot Tub Time Machine 2?
but because of the proportions of expectation to delivery.
Yeah.
It was
It's like the big like platter comes out with the lid on it, and then they lift it off, and it's like, oh, this is a dog turd.
yeah, or it's just like a freshly killed chicken with the feather still on.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was this, I had to watch. I just watched and reviewed Entourage and San Andreas. Yeah. I mean, these I've been really like almost I don't know, tortured by by these mainstream movies. And I last year I quite enjoyed a lot of the mainstream offerings. Uh, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was one of my favorites of the year, man. Like I loved that movie. I thought Andy Serkis had his best performance ever, and that's saying a lot with that guy. This year there were some highlights, like mainstream highlights that I enjoyed. Avengers was okay. I gave it a generally positive review, although I had some issues. I liked Kingsman, The Secret Service, Matthew Vaughn's film. Mad Max, of course. I already mentioned that. But you liked Furious 7.
I did like Furious 7 quite a bit. I'm people are shocked when I say that I'm a fan of the Furious series. I think yeah, I think that they're really kind of it's a real great showing of like craftsmanship. I thought James Wan was a really fantastic choice for direction because
Right.
he's an excellent craftsman, and this works totally in his favor. There are some really entertaining and well constructed action sequences. Um, and I think that I love that the film it has these characters, and it's been able to build on them so much over the films, and it has this very simple yet really powerful theme of family
Family.
and
Yeah.
loyalty and friendship and all that. And I was surprised too to see it because I didn't know how they would handle the Paul Walker thing, and it's actually
Was it?
very
It was well
surprising.
done.
It was well done. It was actually
Wow.
like the ending is pretty. I even said, I'm like, yeah, they actually did a very good job at it. So yeah, I totally go to bat for Furious 7. I was really entertained by it. I mean, I've only seen a few mainstream movies that were like ones I enjoy, but I mean, I typically don't enjoy a lot of mainstream movies
Well,
that come out.
Spy was pretty good. Spy was
Spy was
pretty
pretty
good.
good. I just saw Spy recently. It's funny. I honestly think that two directors, Paul Feig and Nicholas Stoller, have done like I said this recently. I think they've done so much over the last several or more than several years to kind of elevate the studio comedy. I think
Yeah, 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 yeah.
they've done a really amazing work. Like Neighbors was a huge surprise to me last year. I did not expect Neighbors to be as good as it actually was. They just are able to really find really great casts, put them together, and make a lot of funny material. Like Rose Byrne, Jason Statham, Jude Law, Peter Serafinowicz. Like they're amazing in Spy. They all work together beautifully.
Yeah, I liked that ensemble as well. I mentioned that in my review that ensemble gelled like
Yeah,
impressively well. I wasn't expecting, especially when you look at them on paper. Jude Law, Jason Statham, Rose Byrne,
yeah,
what's his face, Bobby Cannavale. Like these
yeah.
guys, it's such a disparate skill set that this movie covers, but they're really great together. I did have a problem with this kind of Yo Mama brand of
Yeah,
humor that's
the
really,
simile.
oh god, it's
Yeah,
really
it's
driving me
overused.
crazy. It's
I agree.
overused, and Spy had a ton of it. But other than that, I will. There were some funny moments, especially with involving Jason Statham, who really
Yeah.
overachieves in
Yeah.
this movie.
I was happy because I mean like we're both huge fans of the Crank movies,
Yeah.
and he's a great comedic actor, and just no one uses it because he's such like this serious like mopey badass guy. It's like no, he can do funny shit. You just got to give him the opportunity. I want to mention because you mentioned documentaries earlier. Dreamcatcher is
Mm.
one documentary that's really powerful harrowing stuff. It's on Showtime, so if you have Showtime or Showtime on Demand or whatever, check out Dreamcatcher. Other documentary, Kurt Cobain, Montage of Heck.
Right.
Not a particular huge Nirvana fan myself. Really well done documentary. I kind of went in. I didn't really have many expectations, and I was surprised at how good it was. And it kind of flew by for well over 2 hours. And one thing I should mention is one of my top 5 films of the year so far, and I totally overlooked it before when I mentioned earlier, Girlhood. Fantastic coming of age tale. So that's one, I think it's on Netflix too. So check out Girlhood if you can. It's total sleeper, I think, this year, and should be seen by as many people as possible.
Okay, I would say before we move on, I have to mention Inside Out was a mainstream movie that I really enjoyed. I just saw that one. It's coming out very soon. Pete Docter is such a great storyteller, and it's a wonderfully imaginative film with a great cast and great visuals. Almost, I might have teared up a couple times, so that was great. And then also a movie I reviewed last week, Love and Mercy by Bill Pohlad, the Brian Wilson biopic. I like that one too. But yeah, so hopefully this year picks up before we head into 2016. I think I have a good feeling it will. That's our conversation about 2015 so far. After a little tiny break, we'll be back with you guys to talk about movies, about making movies. See you soon.
Eat your face. but no, for real, can you make me a tulip?
Oh my God, am I on set right now?
Oh
my God. I can't take it. Action, cut.
Madison, why are you here?
Rachel said that I could find you here and your phone was going straight to voicemail.
Probably because ain't no good service down there.
But I had to get here because I had to let you know. So I was visiting Rachel and I was giving her a card and she was watching one of your secret movies.
Oh my God, wait, did you see any of it?
No, she turned it off immediately. It was good, it was good. You were both Japanese and Earl beheaded you, but then she turned it off. But I had a brainstorm, okay? I had an amazing brainstorm. I realized you need to make a film for Rachel. What do you think? It would be her favorite thing in the entire world, and it's the most important thing you could do. You have to do it.
Yeah, word.
Word? Word, you'll do it? Word?
Hey guys, welcome back. We are now talking about movies about making movies. And we're talking about this because in Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, the movie that we're about to review, two of the characters, Earl, the titular Earl, and Greg, the main character, are two kind of friends, kind of sort of friends, but it's complicated. But those characters get together periodically and make DIY homemade spoofs of classic movies. What are some good ones? There's A Box of Lips, Wow.
Yep.
What's that one about?
That was about they find a box of tulips and are amazed.
A Box of Lips, wow.
Yeah, A Box of Lips, wow. And was it 2:38 p.m. Cowboy or
A Sockwork Orange.
Yep. Pooping Tom, the classic Hal Pressburger one.
I'm such an idiot. I'm such a moron that I laugh so hard at Pooping Tom. Pooping Tom. But the Seven Seals.
Eyes wide butt.
But yeah, so that's one of the more appealing aspects of that movie. It's a lot of fun. So in honor of that, we're talking about actual movies about making movies. There are so many classics because I think actually the specific subject about the actual process of making movies, I think when filmmakers tackle this stuff, it's very personal for them, obviously because they're so obsessed with it. This is their life's work. So their views on the art of filmmaking are so deeply rooted and drive them as people, so that they've got a lot of fascinating stuff to say about that none of us would ever think to say.
Yeah, I think that I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but for me, I'm always tempted, and this is probably because I am, a huge cinephile / nerd about movies. I'm always interested in the minutia, the behind the scenes stuff, what's going on. And when it comes to movies about movies, I like the ones that are kind of very, not kind of like loud, like very kind of hyper praising, films, but they recognize that they're a very powerful art form, and they're, that they can inspire so much. And yet, I always love that it's just like, when I'm watching a movie, whether it's a huge one or a small one, it's always, someone's idea, and it gets like transformed and everything through the whole production process. And it's always interesting to see how that comes together.
It's really great. And these filmmakers sacrifice so much to make these films. It's a lot of hard work, as we all know. We don't know as well as these guys, but because they sacrifice so much, it's almost like, like this is their muse. This is their wife. It's like when they make a movie about making movies, what they're really doing is making a love letter. The first example I'm going to bring up is Francois Truffaut's Day for Night. I think this is the one that would probably come up on a lot of people's list because it's such a great film. It views filmmakers, like not just the director, but everyone on set, from the actors to the sound people to the boom mic operators. It views them as these kind of creatures who are only happy in their habitat of a movie set. And it's this little microcosm of people. And in the movie, like, they all sleep with each other casually or not so casually, and people break up, people get back together, marriages break up, and it's kind of a really insider's peek into why these people are so committed to spending their time in this kind of bizarre environment. Like, a movie set is really weird. Like, it's like a weird place. They're sitting in a fake room inside a bigger room with cameras pointed at themselves, saying the same words over and over again. I think Truffaut really captures that in a way that no other director really has.
I can't say anything. I haven't seen Day for Night, so
it's wonderful.
I have. Yeah, Truffaut, right?
Yeah, and he's so prolific too. He's got so many movies, but I think this is actually one of his best ones. And if I could bring up another one, is another classic. I think we should just get these out of the way right at the top.
Get the immediate ones out.
Yeah, Billy Wilder, Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
About Norma Desmond, played by Gloria Swanson, the faded silent film star, and Joe Gillis, played by William Holden, the screenwriter, who stays with her as she kind of brings him into her deluded world of faded glamour, or expired glamour, and how she still thinks she's on top of the world when really she's just caught up in her Hollywood days. And one of the most compelling and memorable aspects of that film is Erich von Stroheim as her trusty butler, who we discover later turns out to be much more than her butler. Sunset Boulevard. I don't know what much more to say about that. Everyone knows why we put that on this list.
It brings me to what I want to bring up as the first pick, a movie that plays, with fiction and reality, about Kiarostami's Close Up, which, maybe it's because of the way it's done that I don't think of it as a movie about making movies, but it
totally
entirely is. It totally is, And for those who don't know, Kiarostami, it's a film in two halves. It's documentary and fiction. The documentary part is about a court case where a man is convicted. He's on a trial because he impersonated a director and went to a family's home and basically said he's a director and he wants to, consider using their home for a film he's working on. He was doing research and they let him in. He made it up. He just pretended he was the director. And the other part are fictional reenactments of that period of time when he was impersonating the director. But what Kiarostami does that's so interesting and kind of really throws a lot of complexities into the film is he takes the real life people from the case and makes them play themselves in the reenactments. And it's a totally fascinating film, and it's operating on so many levels, and much like a lot of Iranian cinema and the best Iranian cinema, plays beautifully between fiction and reality, and fiction and nonfiction. And a total, I think, essential film for anyone to watch.
Abbas Kiarostami is I have such a admiration for him. F is for fake, or F for fake, sorry. F for fake, Orson Welles.
How dare you?
Orson Welles' film essay, as he described. A really strange movie that has a lot of narrative threads running through it. It's a documentary, but not really. Its premise is about how everything that you see in movies is kind of an illusion, and that you shouldn't trust everything you see, including the film itself. Its jumping off point is this examination of the career of an art forger named Elmer Dehori, and it also follows other threads of people like Oha Kodar, Clifford Irving, who's a hoax biographer, Howard Hughes. And one of the cool things about this movie is that the trailer for it doesn't even have any actual footage from the movie. It's all original footage just for the trailer. Yeah. So that was really cool and very much plays into the theme of that. And it's an incredibly flawed film, but I don't think there's any way to make a film like this without it being flawed.
Since you're talking about, legendary director like Wells, I want to bring up one. I guess it's kind of I think it's more of an unorthodox pick because it's not. It's more about a filmmaker than it is about just making movies. But it's a documentary called Altman by Ron Mann that came out last year in 2014, and it's literally a documentary about Robert Altman. And what I loved about it was it's completely based on his career. It touches on his personal life a bit, but the point is Robert Altman is a man who defined himself by his work. That's all he ever really did. He could not stop working. So the film is about it defines him through his work. And it goes through his filmography in chronological order, and it talks about what he did on films and all the kind of innovations and techniques he brought to it, and you learn so much fascinating information, and it's all done. And what I love about it is the large majority of it is done through narration by Robert Altman, through stock footage of interviews and lectures and stuff he's given over the decades before his death. You learn really interesting facts, like when his first, I think, big feature film was Countdown, which he was fired from. The studio executive ran in, and partway through watching the dailies, he freaked out, and he's like, what is he doing? He's letting people talk over each other in a scene, because, and that's, of course, Robert Altman's trademark. And it's completely fascinating and emotional and moving throughout. And one thing that I found, one of my favorite things, pieces of information in the film is after Robert Altman failed with Popeye, he went off to Europe for a while, and he kind of did stage work, and he did film adaptations of plays, and he got an offer to teach as a professor at a university, and he wanted to make a movie. So what he did was he taught a class on filmmaking, and he just had his students be his crew for the movie, and that was their lesson for the semester. That's cool. He ended up making the movie Secret Honor with Phil Baker Hall. Wow. And that's how he made it. And that's why I love him. He's just this really tenacious filmmaker that was able to keep making movies and keep working. He kept finding ways to do it, and and I love the quote he says at one point where they say, how his career has been through so many ups and downs. He kind of lost favor with Popeye, gained it back with the player, and he says, I haven't changed. He's like, I've been going down a straight line. It's everyone else who's been getting either it's the people who are liking me or disliking me. It's not him that's changed. Two more I want to mention just quick would be Martin Scorsese Hugo, which
great pick.
I honestly did not expect that movie to turn into Scorsese kind of talking about film preservation and about making movies, and I was totally blown over and moved by it. I know people hated it. I loved it because
I loved it too.
I'm a damn film nerd, so I adored every second of it. And the last one would be Shion Sono's Why Don't You Play in Hell. Why Don't You Play in Hell is just a really funny movie about two warring gangs in Japan who are basically a film crew comes up to them and they're like, hey, we'll film your battle for you. And it turns into the most zany thing where, the dolly operator just has an Uzi and is just blasting away Yakuza so they can keep their shot going. And it's a blast, and it's total insanity. But that's Shion Sono for you if you know who he is.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not familiar, but that sounds really cool. A few more that I'd want to mention, of course, a couple more classics. Stanley Donen Singing in the Rain, starring Gene Kelly. That one's, of course, about a silent film production company's transition to sound. Some of the best performances, song and dance performances in movie history. I'd say probably the best song and dance performances in movie history. Federico Fellini's 8.5. Goddamn. Definitely belongs on this list for reasons that if you don't know 8.5, you should research if you haven't seen that movie. And also, it's a weird pick here, but Ari Folman's The Congress from a couple years ago, or last year. Was it last year?
I think it premiered in 2013, but came out last year.
Okay, yeah. Last year, Robin Wright plays a version of herself in an alternate reality where she sells her digital likeness to a studio where they can use it as they see fit. This is something that I'm sure will become a reality at some point with the way technology is going and how we saw Paul Walker in Furious 7. And I haven't seen it, but he didn't look weird.
He there you can tell at some points, but it's surprisingly, like I said, it's surprisingly well done.
Yeah, but it's a step in that direction towards what Fullman's The Congress kind of predicts. But yeah, there's so many great movies. Maybe we missed some. Let us know, guys, if we missed some of your favorite movies about making movies. But now that we're through with that, we're going to be moving on into our review of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
Look, I don't want you hanging out with me. I don't need your stupid pity. It's fine. You can just go.
No, hey, you got it all wrong. I'm not here because I pity you. I'm actually here just my mom is making me.
It's actually worse.
Yeah, I know.
Look, it's okay. Honestly, I'm fine. Just go.
Okay, Rachel, just listen to me for a second. My mom is gonna turn my life into a living hell if I don't hang out with you. Okay, I can't overstate how annoying she's being about this. She's basically like the LeBron James of nagging. LeBron James plays basketball.
LeBron James is.
Look, I know I'm not doing you any favors here. What I'm asking is for you to do me a favor.
You want a favor from me?
Yes, just let me hang out with you for one day. I can tell my mom we hung out, and then we'll just be out of each other's lives. Deal?
Deal.
Word.
Is that a Black Power salute?
No, I was going in for a fist bump.
I can't fist bump you from up here.
Yeah, no, I realize that.
Hey guys, welcome back, and now we're going to be reviewing Alfonso Gomez Rejon's Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which is about an awkward, socially faceless high schooler named Greg, played by Thomas Mann, who's forced by his mom to befriend a girl his age named Rachel, played by Olivia Cooke, and that Rachel has just been diagnosed with leukemia. The film revolves around their, at first reluctant friendship, which gradually blossoms into not a romance, but a connection that changes both of their lives completely and forever. Directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon, of course, who worked under Martin Scorsese for a few films, shooting second unit stuff occasionally, and he also collaborated semi-extensively with Ryan Murphy on his shows Glee and American Horror Story. I really liked this movie. I thought it really moved me. I actually didn't cry. It's the movie's title signals kind of a tearjerker type of movie. I not that I wasn't moved. It just didn't move me to tears. But what was your impression of this movie, CJ? I know it was a little different than mine.
I did not like this movie at all. I would say it's one of my least favorites of the year so far. It's I guess the way I would explain it is like this, because actually the day after I watched another film called Detention by Joseph Kahn, who some people might know as a music video director.
Right.
And both films are very self-aware and they're very meta, and they they know exactly what kind of film they are and they comment on it. And what I love about Detention is that it's a film that's very self-aware and it's constantly pointing out but it's endearing, and it makes fun of itself, and it shows a genuine affection for the exact things it's kind of picking from, and the genres and mishmashes and all of that that's referring to. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl just feels like it has this layer of just pure condescension and disdain for everything it's doing. It has this kind of thing where it's like, we're going to tell you what we're trying to be, but we're not doing that because that's cliche and lame, and we're doing something different and that's better. And it really kind of drove me up a wall. And
what are you talking about there? Explain for the listeners.
Because it's trying to be this romantic. It's definitely feeling in the vein of like The Fault in Our Stars and the kind of the youthful teen movies. And it's also like you said, there's there's a hint of romance there between.
There's no romance in the movie.
There's no romance. There's no romance.
Yeah,
but
that's
I mean, like
incorrect.
they deliberately it's even in the trailer. They deliberately say like, if it was this kind of movie, we would be romantic, but it's not that kind of movie, and that drives me up a wall. Because to me it just feels, like I said, it's very condescending. It feels like they're trying to be like, well, we're so much better than this, and like they're so above it, and I don't like that type of tone, and I feel like this film has that all over, and it's also incredibly cloying.
That's the sole example of what you're talking about.
Not the sole example.
Name another one.
They had, well, I mean, the whole fact with the film they were making, and they were like, oh, this is lame and cliche and blah blah. But there was another example, closer to where in the second act, or like when the teacher gives that like monologue about how you find out more about people after they go, and he kind of like says, is this the part where you do this and this and this? Like it has all that, but it's not done in a way that's kind of like I said, detention. That type of stuff is done in a way that just, it's very funny and natural and endearing, and this one is just like, we're so above it, like,
I didn't take it that way. I know what you're talking. I mean, it's one of the earliest scenes in the film where Greg is narrating the story, and in that there's a scene where he and Rachel first meet in her bedroom, and he says that they kind of make a connection, and he says, if this were a romantic story, this would be the part where we fall in love, but this isn't that kind of story, so we don't. And I think it's understandable, that's a good point, taking it as kind of like they're condescending to that kind of movie, almost saying they're above it and stuff. But I didn't take it that way. The way I took it was, this movie it's almost unavoidable to look at this movie to expect this movie to kind of be like The Fault in Our Stars, those kind of movies based on books. And I think what they're doing is recognizing that and addressing that with the audience, instead of trying, because I think if they didn't have that scene there, I think the audience would be expecting them to get together the whole movie. So I think what they're doing there is making sure the audience knows that this is not the direction we're going. Please don't expect that to happen. It's not good, and they think it works.
It's so silly. It's unnecessary, and I felt like the movie was so cloying, and really like
it's not cloying.
It's so cloying, and it's so desperate. It just, all of it feels so desperate, where it's like, it just felt like this movie was begging me to love it and be so charmed, and it wasn't that funny. And Earl was kind of offensive in a lot of ways. His characterization was really offensive.
Agreed.
Half of it, like someone else brought this up on Twitter, I think after Sundance premiered, and they were like, yeah, half of his dialogue is dem titties. Like, it's really bad, and that's just, I was like, ugh. The cinematography by Chung Kun Chung is like great on a very objective, like it's really inventive, but it's too much. I first was kind of like, okay, it makes sense, it's acknowledging this is kind of a bullshit story in a lot of ways, so the artifice goes along with it. But by the end, I just like, it was too much for me. It just was just like, I couldn't, I was kind of like, just calm down, for God's sake. But everything just did not work for me at all, and I was kind of rooting for it because I really like Alfonso Gomez-Rejon. I think he's a fantastic director, at least on just the pure craftsman level. Like, I mean, I love his work in American Horror Story. Inevitably, like, he has there are some moments that work really well. There's a montage partway through the movie that I really liked.
This movie has some of the best montages I've seen in a long time.
It has, like, and I'm talking about the montage where it was mostly, I think, Greg's point of view, and it was showing him kind of visiting her place over the winter while he was talking about how he kind of...
Yeah, you see Rachel's mood change day to day.
Yeah, that was
It was really inventive. I like that one. But The Fault in Our Stars is a movie that is, like, kind of has a similar outer shell to this one, except, like, that's a romance movie, and this is not romantic at all. But that movie was, like, about kids always saying the exact right thing or the exact wrong thing all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, the movie bangs on the drums of romance and tragedy, like, as hard as it fucking can, the whole way through. And I actually found that movie pretty charming. I kind of liked that movie. It was effectively dramatic, but Me and Earl feels much more, like, frazzled and uncomfortable and more authentic than that movie, frankly. Most of the time, Greg and Rachel spend together, it's in her bedroom, and they had these quiet moments watching Key and Earl's homemade movies, And they have little squabbles as well when Rachel's not having such a good day physically and or mentally. And they speak to each other with this blunt honesty that I think it's because they make this unspoken pact at the beginning of the film when they meet. Greg almost immediately admits to Rachel that his mom has forced him to hang out with her. And he's very open and self-deprecating about his social awkwardness and issues with self-worth. And from that moment, I think they make again this unspoken pact to never bullshit each other. And of course, when that pact is broken and they do start bullshitting each other, the relationship suffers. And I really like that dynamic between those two characters.
I would say like Thomas Mann and Olivia Cooke are both good in the film. I don't fault in the performance. Funny enough, Molly Shannon was really good in it.
She was funny.
I didn't expect it, although yeah, I didn't expect that. I like Nick Offerman's always a welcome presence.
The movie, a big part of the movie is Greg and Earl's relationship. Earl played by R.J. Seiler. During their spare time, Earl and Greg make these movies, like we said, and it's so we see clips and DVD covers of all these homemade movies and spoofs they make. And I thought this movie did that actually much better than Be Kind, Rewind.
Yeah, well, no, honestly, that's probably the best part of the movie, those things, because they are funny and it always works. And I mean, Be Kind, Rewind, I think, is a really underappreciated film. Yeah, I mean, the movie has its highlights, but I don't know. I mean, it's just, I feel like, you know, when you have Greg and he's this like, you know, they call out his kind of cynical, detached, morose.
I don't think he didn't come off as cynical to me.
Well, he's very he's very self-deprecating. He doesn't have the confidence, you know, like Rachel is always telling him, you know, like you have to put more value in yourself. You have to, you know, she's pushing him to be successful and do things. And he has that very, maybe sardonic would be a better word, but he's, you know, he's just detached. And
it feels like he's kind of a blank space. Like he's kind of like this blank person, and Rachel fills him up with stuff as the movie goes on. That's how I took it.
Yeah, but the issue for me is, you know, it has this, you know, it establishes Greg, you know, like how he has, you know, this growing up to do and stuff. And, you know, it's about calling him out on it and him trying to move on. But the film has the exact same personality as like Greg does, with that type of, you know, snarky, self-aware kind of, you know, I think negativity, condescension, cynical, however I call it. And that's what kind of drove me nuts. When you do self-aware stuff, I like self-aware stuff that has a genuine affection, you know, for what it's going against. This film doesn't feel like it has that. It really feels like it's like we're making this better. It's not like, you know, there's an awareness, I think, you know, when you're making fun of cliches and you're making fun of things and tropes and what we're already used to, there should be a realization that, you know, these are things that are there because people like them and it's what we're familiar with and they're there for a reason. And when a film tries to, you know, turn away from it or look down on it, I never like that. It doesn't feel genuine at all. It feels incredibly like, I guess condescending is the only word I can think of now, but
I didn't get the condescending thing in my experience with the film. I think the message of the film is a beautiful one, and it's about how someone's story goes on after they're dead. Even when someone dies, more things can be revealed about their character, and that really, I think it really, Alfonso Gomez Ferrejon, he took the directing job for this movie because his father passed and he was trying to cope with that, and he used the production of this movie to help him. And I just spoke with him a couple days ago, and I thought this was a gracious movie that pays tribute not just to his dad, but like to filmmakers and other artists, and also to filmmaking itself. I think it's a warm homage that really moved me in that way. And I've lost people close to me recently, and I have definitely been thinking about this idea that we can learn more about someone after they're gone. And this movie has a great way of incorporating that message near the end, which we won't spoil, but I thought it was well done.
Yeah, I honestly kind of rolled my eyes and burst out laughing at the end when they kind of hit that theme home after you know, it was hinted at with the teacher's speech or monologue, I'm sorry, and then they kind of hammered that home. And once it dawned on me what was going on, I just started laughing and
you cold-hearted bastard.
It didn't work for me. at all. It was totally unearned. It didn't, like, none of it worked for me. And it reminds me of another film, which I forgot to mention in the last segment, where Romancing in Thin Air, which is a Johnny To film from years ago, which I think is absolutely beautiful in the way that it talks about death and moving on, and art, and how they all kind of tie into each other. And that's a film and it's self-aware in a lot of ways, and that to me is how you do it. And Detention is another movie, how you do it in terms of doing the kind of humorous meta film and then the self-awareness. This, for me, I thought it just did not work on so many fronts. It has a lot of talent behind it, has a lot of people going, but none of it came together for me.
Yeah, a lot of it, most of it came together for me. One of my favorite.
And everyone else, let's just say, I mean, it won the Sundance Jury and Audience Award, and as you said, Searchlight bought it for $12 million, and it's making a huge impact with people. But I know that there are people who are they're dissenting quite a bit with it.
Yeah, I think I think this one's an easy target too, because it does get sentimental at times. But I think probably my favorite thing about the movie is the camera work and the editing. It's so dynamic and thoughtful and patient. And Rejon and his cinematographer use a lot of wide angle shots and panning and flashy maneuvers. That it has shades of Wes Anderson in it for sure, but I also think that Rejon's style is a little less polished than that and a little more spontaneous and jittery. And the camera moves it's cool because like the moves feel choreographed, but they also feel like unpredictable. There's a scene where Greg is running around his house, almost running away from his mom, when his mom's trying to force him to go befriend Rachel, and it's swooping and swinging around the house, and you almost never know where it's gonna turn next or who it's gonna follow. I thought that was really fun. It does that a lot in the movie, but the camera also, though it does all these crazy maneuvers, it also takes time to sit still when it needs to. There's this long, static, uninterrupted shot near the end of the film where Greg and Rachel are having a very heavy, very uncomfortable conversation, and the camera is almost cowering in a corner of the room, almost like the tension is there so thick that there's no way the camera could ever wade through it or even dare to budge. And it stays there for an ungodly amount of time. And there are moments in that exchange, that piece of dialogue, where those two actors aren't saying a word for like 15 seconds. They're sitting and they're thinking and we're thinking, and it's like the camera's scared to get any closer. And I thought that was very effective.
Yeah, I was actually like the Wes Anderson vibes are very obvious. Like everyone's going to bring up, but I mean, I was getting Scorsese vibes, and I know they work with Scorsese, but like a lot of the dynamic camera moves.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this guy. Like once I read that he did do work with Scorsese on like Casino, I was like, yeah, okay, it makes sense. That's all over. He loves Scorsese. He adores him. I mean, he has Taxi Driver, pop up in the film at one point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I really am a fan of Alfonso Gomez-Rejon. Like as a filmmaker, he is really inventive, and I give the movie credit where it's due. It took this story and it definitely went. Like that's what I love about his work, because even American Horror Story, when he directs something, he goes all out. Like he throws everything he can, and that's what I like it a lot in American Horror Story, where it's very camp, so it kind of fits it. But here, I like I said at first, I was kind of like, okay, I can go with this. I mean, even the sequence where maybe I shouldn't spoil, but there's a sequence where Earl and Greg they have a very special experience during the school day that they didn't expect. I know I'm being so vague, and there's a really fun moment where the room he's in, I guess they kind of move things around. I'm talking about the desks move all around him, and that's very interesting. And there are lots of like little cutesy, clever things like that, and it works from time to time. But yeah, I mean, like that's what I'll say. I mean, I've been very negative, but that's what I'll say positively. I mean, Alfonso Gomez-Rejon, he can direct the shit out of things, and that's what I like to see in a director. And same with Chung Kun Chung, which I am very happy to see him getting recognition. I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked if he ends up getting Oscar nominated and all that, because the cinematography is so, like, it is definitely one of those cases where it's like the most cinematography. Like it calls attention to itself in a way, but it's deserved. Like it's really impressive work.
Yeah, but overall, your thoughts on the movie were negative, very negative, and mine were very positive. It wasn't in my group of favorite movies of the year, definitely not, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is in theaters this Friday. Check it out and let us know what you think. Fun show. CJ, thank you for joining me again. I like our two-man team.
I like it too. I hope. Well, we did have recently, but I hope we have a new film recently that we'll both kind of agree on.
But no, hopefully CJ and I will get on the same page about some movie in the future. But for now, that's where we are on Me and Earl, a band apart, a band divided.
Oh.
But thank you for joining us for that review and our discussion about movies, about making movies, and our thoughts on the year so far. That was 2015. Thanks for joining us. CJ, where can we find you on Twitter?
Twitter at CJ_Prin or at CJ_PRIN.
I'm at BJ_Boo. You can find Way Too Indie at Way Too Indie on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And actually, I always forget to mention this. This podcast is readily available on YouTube. Very easy to navigate with the YouTube version because we've got little icons you can click on to jump to whatever conversation you'd like to. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for joining us. Peace.
Bye.